All right, so you got Travis Hunter going number 2 overall to the Cleveland Browns. People are talking about this as if it's a lock at the moment. I think Daniel Jeremiah, I saw him just say it's going to happen. So are you hearing the same thing? Is it going to happen? And then why not Abdul Carter at this spot for the Browns?
Yeah, I think ever since probably right before the league meetings down in Florida, the last time I saw you guys in person, so that was the turn of the month, I've been really locked in on Travis Hunter at 2 overall to the Browns. Yesterday, I actually, look, I think we all know that during draft week, you have to take everything you hear with a hefty amount of skepticism. So yesterday I heard hey, is it possible that the Browns trade back out of 2? I don't see it happening. If you listen to the way that Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns, just talked about Travis Hunter, referring to him as Shohei Ohtani, the should be AL MVP every single year, the only person alive who can do what he's doing, frankly, the only person who's been alive in the last 70 years who can do what he's doing, then you take that guy and you don't think twice about him. Play him at wide receiver. Look, I'm not going to pretend that I know which way to play him. But your question about Abdul Carter, I think if Abdul Carter had cleaner medicals or if they didn't just pay Myles Garrett $40 million per year to be Bruce Smith, Julius Peppers, then you take Abdul Carter, right? And it's a fever dream to imagine both of them on the same defense. But to do that means that you pass up Travis Hunter, who is, and I'm not saying that Abdul Carter is not clean character, but as clean as they come, pro, just wants to play football on both sides of the football and fish. That's all he wants to do. He's going to come to work. He's going to play his ass off, and he's going to go home and fish, right? That's the guy that you want there at number 2. And that's why I think a lot of people say, yeah, it's pretty easy, because if I were the GM at 2, no doubt that's who I'm taking.
Is Lake Erie good fishing, Kyle? Do you know? You've been on Lake?
Great fishing.
Okay. He's in a good spot then. I mean, you're
called the Great Lakes, bro.
And if you're the Cleveland Browns, it is called Great Lakes. if you're the Browns, you don't need to smoke screen, right? You're not like, why not be upfront about your intentions? You're not trading this pick. You're not, who's going number 1 overall. It's not like you need to sell anyone on anything. So yeah, I'm tend to be in agreement with you. Speaking of smoke screens though, I do not believe the Ashton Jeanty to the Jags hype that I've seen out in the ether one bit. In your read, you have him going to the Raiders at number 6 overall. Do we think it's possible that the Bears could trade up? Do we think the Raiders really love him that much? And do we think this Jaguars to Ashton Jeanty hype is real, or itself a smokescreen for trade capital?
It's a great question. I don't know. Could I see him going to first of all, you have a new general manager in Jacksonville and James Gladstone, who has no body of his own work to go off of, right? So we are truly guessing. I mean, we just got to be honest about that. We are guessing. Jeanty to the Raiders makes so much sense for any number of reasons. The main one being that they need playmakers, and they don't really have any outside of Brock Bowers. And so that makes sense. A couple of weeks ago when I started this, it could be Jeanty going as high as 6, and his floor was 12. And then it started to kind of go up a little bit. And then I started hearing 5 to 10. And then I heard, man, the Bears are really in love with him. And the Bears have had an aggressive offseason, right? Certainly in free agency, making the trades that they did, especially on the offensive line. I'm not convinced that they're going to trade up in this year's draft for a running back, right? Like, we've all talked about how this is a trade back draft. So a team's going to trade up for a running back who is very good, but he's not Saquon, right? We have to be honest about it. He is a very, very good running back. He is clearly the best running back in this year's draft. And I don't know, Mike, how you would compare him to Bijan, for example, but he is not Saquon Barkley. So do you trade up knowing what it would take in order to go up there and get him? I don't know. So does he go 5? I could believe it, but I like him at 6 to the Raiders.
I've said this a number of times as it pertains to Saquon Barkley. Yes, he is an otherworldly talent, but that coupled with the offensive line in Philadelphia makes him an absolute Marvel character. I mean, he's a superhero. Ashton Jeanty, I feel like, would have a similar success behind an offensive line like Philadelphia. But let's be honest, those things aren't just growing on trees around the National Football League. The Raiders do have a good offensive line. It's not great. It's a good offensive line. They have Chip Kelly. They've got 2 tight ends. They can run a balanced formation with a single running back, Ashton Jeanty, that lends itself to having downfield opportunities for Geno Smith when the time comes in that offense. You talked about the floor being anywhere from 5 to 12 for Jeanty. I don't want to say I know for a fact, but I feel very strongly about the fact that Ashton Jeanty will not fall past 10. And if he does go at 6 to the Raiders, I fully anticipate Warren to be the pick for the Bears. But he's a game changer. And you said they need weapons in Las Vegas, and I think they need stability in their offense with everything that's new in Vegas. And I think the way you do that is a great running game and obviously a veteran quarterback to be able to move the 6 on 3rd down.
Yeah, I'm sure the Bears would love if he fell to 10 and drafted. But the problem, trading up,
they ain't moving up.
Seems insane because just think about it logically. You are moving up to 5. You're going to have to give up pick 39 or 41 to do so. So you are basically saying that the running back at 5 that I'm getting, Ashton Jeanty, is so much better than the running back I'm getting at 39 or 41, like a Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, whoever, that it's worth giving up a top 10 player in this draft. Giving up a chance at a Kelvin Banks, a left tackle of the future, giving up a chance at like a guy who could be an impact player in your roster, that he's so much better that it's worth a top 10 pick to give up. I just don't see that. I think that's crazy. And so,
there's other running backs, Mike. I mean,
yes, that's what
Ashton Jeanty's not Saquon, and maybe Omari and Hampton is not Ashton Jeanty, but like these guys are not very far off from one another.
I mean, just look at the Falcons. Bijan has been great, obviously, but every single year it seems like Tyler Algier has almost the exact same yards per carry, the exact same rushing efficiency. It's like you haven't gotten your ROI on that pick whatsoever. All right, some other questions from your mock draft, some other interesting points. This one I love. You had a few guys here who have been mocked late first consistently, going a lot higher. Yep. And I agree with all of them. Walter Nolan, the Ole Miss defensive tackle, going 11th overall to the San Francisco 49ers. You have Josh Simmons, the Ohio State tackle, with obviously the torn patellar and injury concerns, going 13th overall to the Miami Dolphins. And you have James Pierce, who a lot of people see fall like the Tennessee edge rusher, going 15th. A lot of people see falling because of character concerns, but he goes 15th to the Atlanta Falcons. So walk us through all 3 of those, because on film, they are all top 15 players in this draft class, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt at all about it, right? And ultimately, there are flags about Walter Nolan and about James Pierce, and then there were medical concerns as it relates to Josh Simmons. This mock is about taking some chances, and I'm trying to predict what teams are going to do. Not what I would do as a GM, right? But what teams are going to do. And if we all agree that there's not a great heaping amount of talent, and if we all believe that these teams have spent so many resources and so long in the draft combing through all of these, rumors and innuendo and whatever, I do believe, having called around the league a number of conversations, that some of these guys will be drafted higher than what you may have thought based off of what you've heard about potential character. Right now, there are some guys that I don't have going in the first round that some other mocks would have going, but I'm saying, look, I think that this guy's going to go. I don't think this guy's going to go. It's a little bit of a bet, but Walter Nolan going to San Francisco, getting in that system there, I could absolutely see happening. Clearly a need from a position standpoint. Miami Dolphins, do they believe in Paul at left tackle? Sure, right? They just drafted him in the 2nd round last year. Simmons, though, he's sitting right there staring at you. I know they have a lot of holes. They could easily go somewhere else, a different position, but he would be the best tackle available at that point. And then Pierce. Look, I understand the concern and concerns. I do think that there are some teams out there who will be willing to take some chances. And so that's why I have him going to Atlanta there in the middle of the 1st.
You got to swing the bat on some of these guys. And if you really, I say you, I mean, management, ownership, decision makers in these buildings, because these are the guys, Walter Nolan and Josh Simmons in particular, that if you end up playing against them, you're like, well, shit, we could have had either of these dudes. Josh Simmons, if he is healthy, we're looking at a perennial Pro Bowl type player. I'll be honest with you. What I saw on film from this guy shows me an elite offensive lineman, somebody who loves the game and is very good. but that red flag is injury. So do you have a training room that can nurture and harbor recovery for this young man? And as it pertains to the character concerns with both these guys, not every building in the National Football League is created equally in terms of how they deal with, let's say, unique personalities. When I think about my time in Chicago, I think about George McCaskey and Virginia McCaskey, rest in peace, and the way they wanted to construct their roster to be reflective of their program, their franchise. And then I think about Kansas City, the Chiefs, and while they still wanted to maintain integrity and honor with, the Chiefs' history, they wanted ballers, and they wanted guys who could play the game of football. And they trusted the coaching staff, they trusted the training staff, and they trusted the leadership on both sides of the ball to be able to circle these guys in and have them be a big part of their success. So if you're willing to swing the bat, if you're willing to step up and say, no, this guy's so good, I want him on my team, and I'm going to make it my duty to make sure that he's not a shit disturber, that's the best way to get better, in my opinion. Don't let good players pass you by. Darnell Wright got drafted by the Bears, and I love Darnell Wright. I think it's the right pick. Jalen Carter obviously had a ton of stuff going on off the field, and there were a ton of people that said, I don't care what happened off the field. Have you seen him rush the passer? Have you seen him take on a double team? I understand that, but for the Bears, it wasn't right. But now every week you see Jalen Carter getting 4 or 5 pressures, and you're like, shit, he could have been ours. But it comes down to your personal decision. You got to swing the bat.
Yeah, to put some context to all three, we talked about James Pierce, and obviously the quote was a Tennessee staffer was asked, if you could go to the NFL, would you want him on your team? And they said flat out no. Obviously with Josh Simmons, torn patella against Oregon, it was midway through last season. It's a big injury, TBD on his recovery and how it will go into next season. And then with Walter Nolan, the quote is right here I have from Bob McGinn's awesome series on golongtd.com. Check it out if you haven't. He said he'd probably be at the top of this list if you could just not see him between plays, between drills, between meetings. This kid has been paid at 5 different schools, 3 high schools and 2 colleges. He is a mercenary. He's probably the biggest mercenary in the whole draft. He has followed money everywhere, but yet is very quiet and shy. You would think totally disinterested. You wouldn't think he's hearing a word the coaches are saying to him. But when the ball is snapped for 4 seconds at a time, he's really talented, really gifted. So that's
and just real quick on that, right? Like that is also why I almost hesitated when we got into this, because one character concern is different than another. Like if you're telling me that this dude is just a little lazy, right? Like ultimately, let's just shrink this down into.
You ever been around superstars?
I mean, right? And like that's what I'm saying is that like a San Francisco program, a championship winning program, bring him in with Robert Saleh, bring him in with Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Like he's going to learn it. And if he doesn't, then shame on you. But also
it's called osmosis.
Right. And then also the whole like the mercenary thing and like jumping around for money, like that's this world now. And so like I understand, and I'm not casting aspersions on the writer there, but like that's it. That's like from now until however long, these dudes are just going to be chasing checks. And there shouldn't be a negative connotation to it because it's just going to happen.
Well, and more often than not to say I know any more about the situation, but with the Nico Iamaleava situation, more often than not, it's the people in their ear, right? Sure. These are still like in high school, he's a 16-year-old, he's 17-year-old, 18-year-old. It's someone in his ear saying, go get the more money. And then obviously as you get older, more different people get in your ear. Sometimes you mature, sometimes you don't. Chris Jones, Kansas City Chiefs defensive tackle, he fell to the second round because of the exact same concerns, effort concerns. How hard was he going to work? Well, Kansas City Chiefs
works hard every day. All he does is win Super Bowls and sack the quarterback. Okay.
So sometimes those things aren't always the best predictors.
And sometimes guys like Walter Nolan, they ruin practices, and they're such good guys that they feel bad about it. So they lower the RPMs. So they're not like killing everybody every play. I played with guys like that too. And then they really let it go on Sunday. And that's fun to watch.